eastern part of the country and worked its way towards Texas at about a rate of 200 miles per year. Based on predictive models for how the disease was going to spread, it appeared that it was going to be funneled through the panhandle of Texas into the western states. We had clear battle lines drawn. We knew which direction the enemy was advancing. All of a sudden, to have it show up in Washington State, now it's coming from behind us as well. It's definitely not encouraging, and it is actually quite alarming. The challenge of treating white nose syndrome is much more complicated than just treating the disease. We can't just think about curing the bat of the disease. We also have to be aware of potential impacts to the cave ecosystem. If we sprayed a fungicide or some major disruptive chemical into a cave, we just don't know how that might impact the system. So the plan in Texas is to take advantage of this window of opportunity we have now to learn as much as we can about bats before the disease gets here, and be prepared if an opportunity to apply some kind of treatment arises. And luckily we have a lot of smart researchers working on solving that problem, but I think we still have a long ways to go. Nature is so incredibly complex that the more we look, the more we learn with pretty much any species. Each species of bat is unique, fills a specific niche, and we have so much to learn from them. The loss of any one of these species is a real tragedy.
This project was funded in part by a grant from the Wildlife Restoration Program.
Tommy Hebert's here. I just don't know where he is. Let's start sitting down because it's 8:31. If we could all start taking a seat, it's 8:31, so we're going to wait for Tommy Hebert to arrive at the counter. We're not going to start without you. We counted on you, and it worked. So this meeting is called to order at 8:31 a.m. We will start with a prayer. Let me come forward.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and we ask you to join with us as we pray at this hour. Father in heaven, in the name of Jesus, we bow before you to say thank you for this day. We thank you for your grace and your mercy. your long suffering and patience, your divine protection. Now, Father, as we assemble here at the City Council meeting, we beseech you by the mercy of God to give us guidance, wisdom, and knowledge to be able to conduct the business of this city in a way that will glorify you and be edifying to everyone that's here. Bless our Honorable Mayor, Brenda Gunter. Bless the members of the City Council. Bless God, our city clerk and the city attorney, our city manager, and all department heads that are here. We pray that you bless all of the citizens and representatives of different agencies that are here today. We seek your face and we seek your favor, and we ask you to come in and sup with us this day. In Jesus' name, let everybody say amen. God bless you. All right, feel like I had church.
Would you like to go ahead and ask for us to pray for rain? Because it's getting hot and dry out there.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much, Gary. We will now move into pledges, and we are going to have today Brooke McKee and Ava Reese McKee to join us. Brooke is entering the 9th grade at Central Freshman, and Ava is entering the 7th grade at Glenn Middle School. So, all right, let's turn this way.
Of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee. Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
The first proclamation we are going to read this morning is the recognition of the Texas Hunger Initiative and Kids Eat Free program. So, Mary Hebert, would you like to come forward as we read this proclamation? The Texas Hunger Initiative is a collaborative effort with the goal of ending hunger in Texas through policy, education, research, grassroots organizing, and community development. San Angelo is one of 8 Texas cities selected to have a regional office with the dual purpose of promoting child nutrition programs and creating hunger-free community coalitions within our 23-county region. In Tom Green County, more than 1 in 4 families with children often do not have enough money to buy food. In San Angelo ISD, over 8,000 students receive free or reduced meals when school is in session. The goal for Kids Eat Free 2019 is to help meet the nutritional needs of more children during the summer months after summer school is over. In our 10-year history, Kids Eat Free has served over 168,000 meals to children. Local churches, ministries, organizations, businesses, and numerous individuals have committed to provide meals in July and August at 10 San Angelo neighborhood sites. Kids Eat Free would like to invite the community to join us for food, fun, and prizes as we celebrate our 10th anniversary at the San Angelo State Park on July 13th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Therefore, I, Brenda Gunter, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize and applaud the Texas Hunger Initiative and Kids Eat Free program for its achievement and positive determination to make a difference in our community through the Kids Eat Free summer meal program.
We want to say thank you for this recognition. We are really excited to be doing this program where we are providing meals for children in July and August after the school district meal sites close. And it helps to provide meals for all those children that are on free and reduced lunch through the rest of the year, and it helps their families to be able to help their summer budgets by being able to feed the children through those meal sites. We are going to have 3 new meal sites this year, one at Nueva Vista Apartments, one at the Housing Authority, and one at Cross Point Fellowship, and they will join the ones that we have already had for many years. We have several sites that have been with us ever since we started in 2010, and we're excited to be celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. And the San Angelo State Park has offered to host us at this celebration, and so we want to invite everybody who's had anything to do with Kids Eat Free, participated, or has helped at one of our sites over these last 10 years to join us on July 13th at the State Park from 10 to 1. We'll have all kinds of fun things to do. The kids will get to go on trailer rides to see the bison and the longhorn. We'll have hikes. We'll have mesquite medallion. We'll be making mesquite medallions. We'll have face painting. We're going to have some prizes, a bicycle, and some other door prizes. So we hope you will all join us. We're excited that we've been able to provide this service for the community over these 10 years. There's not transportation provided, and we do ask that every child be accompanied by an adult.
Our next proclamation of June 28, 2019, as the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote in Texas. Do I have anyone here to receive this proclamation?
One of you two needs to come up.
On June 23, 1919, the Texas legislature met in a special session to adopt the women's suffrage movement. 5 days later, the Senate voted to grant Texas women the right to vote. In 1918, San Angelo was ahead of its time when Mamie Barfield was selected as city secretary. Miss Barfield worked in the city office responsible for municipal elections before women were allowed the right to vote in Texas. A dedicated employee for 50 years, Miss Barfield was recognized by the Texas Municipal League in 1962 for her longevity with the city. Miss Barfield was a trailblazer as a working professional at a time when men dominated the workforce. Additionally, San Angelo was progressive for employing her at a time when only 20% of the workforce was female. 100 years later, we reflect on and appreciate the dutiful service of Mamie Barfield, along with the years of work by many women's rights groups who fought for passage of the 19th Amendment, guaranteeing and protecting women's constitutional right to vote. Therefore, I, Brenda Gunter, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, Texas, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize Mamie Barfield's role as San Angelo's longest-serving city secretary and hereby proclaim June 28, 2019 as the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote in Texas in San Angelo, Texas, and urge the residents to join us in observing this great milestone. Our next recognition is of the Public Information Office's recent awards. The city's Public Information Office won 3 trophies at the state gathering of the Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers. The office won a first-place award in the association's competition for a public service announcement for the SAPD. This was a recruitment video featuring a San Angelo police officer who previously served in the military. The Public Information Office typically stands out in the state competition, and this year was no exception. The office won a second-place award for a public service announcement produced for the Stormwater Division. The educational spot explained the impact of litter on the stormwater that flows in the Concho River. City Life David Green also won 3rd place in the special one-time program category. This program spotlighted the work of a water distribution supervisor. All of the awards were won against offices in the state's metropolitan cities. Communications Director Anthony Wilson serves as the organization's treasurer. He helped plan the conference, facilitated 2 panel discussions, and introduced 3 speakers. Therefore, I, Brenda Gunter, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, Texas, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize and applaud the Public Information Office for its achievement and positive determination to make a difference in our community.
Thank you for the recognition. This is actually the last time that we'll be recognized together, so that's very sad, honestly. I'm just going to say that. So 7 years ago, I'm gonna brag on Anthony a little bit. So 7 years ago when Anthony came aboard, he bought into our idea about making a face for SATV in the city, which is obviously what we did with him. Some people would have objected to that or just simply said no, but he jumped in with both feet and he didn't disappoint. So AJ, if you'll cue the video.
To the city, I'm Anthony Wilson, the Public Information Officer for the City of San Angelo.
Folks, have we got a deal for you? Pieces of heavy equipment. And here's the best part. You set the prices.
5, 6, 7, 8.
We're hoping to use this as a springboard for people who will eventually serve on one of our 19 boards and commissions.
Notice I'm still wearing my helmet.
Yeah, I'm a little afraid. Hard out, Gaga. This is a boat. We've got a beautiful black cat here at...
Holy hazardous driving, stop! There's the water!
I love trash.
How do you get this thing off the ground? It's better for you than running. It burns calories like crazy. It strengthens the cardiovascular system.
Just in general, with Angelo, we're resolved to know that Cavendish is the first. Dylan, thank you for being with us. And the force behind.
You may be wondering, like I am, why is there a humongous spider on that man?
So give me sort of a 30-second elevator speech, if you will, about...
What am I supposed to say now? Like you just set it off.
For SATV,
For SATV, I'm Anthony Wilson.
So countless of on-camera appearances, more than 200 interviews at least, and over 60 awards, which we just added to. It's fair to say that it worked out better than we could ever have dreamed. In our office, we have used a 3-prong approach to how we develop content. Is it of interest, impact, and importance to the community? And I can say, Anthony, you were always of interest. Everything you did was important to the community, and we can't thank you enough for the incredible impact you have made on this community and this organization. And we wish you all the best in Maine and in everything you do.
Wow, this is sort of like attending your own wake. And you got to see the many hairstyles of Anthony Wilson throughout the years. So it's really important for me, for San Angelo, to know how much I love this community. And I've loved working for the city of San Angelo. It's been an honor and it's been a pleasure. And you know, I just hope this community really understands the level of commitment of the public servants who work here and try to deliver a high quality of service to the community every single day. And it's been just, you know, like I said, a privilege in order to be able to tell some of their stories. And it's not that Christina and Lance and I are running from anything. We're just running towards something, a new lifestyle, a new landscape, and a new adventure. And so I'm really excited about the opportunity to become the town manager in Belgrade, Maine. But at the same time, I will miss San Angelo dearly. You guys will always be a part of us. Thank you.
You're a trusting soul, Brian, to turn your equipment over to the city attorney.
You do quite often.
We will now open the meeting for public comment. Do I have any in the audience who would like to make public comment?
Good morning. My name is Sylvia Martinez. I'm here because I live down San Jacinto Street, and I was wondering if y'all are going to put a light over there on San Jacinto and South Bryant, because it's very dangerous with all the buildings in the back. You know, I don't know if we're going to put a light. The second thing, I was sick and I wasn't able to come when you all did the no parking for the bike things. I'm upset because you took off the parking to the Galilee people, the bike. Why? They make all these houses for the city of San Angelo. Where I live, they're beautifying the barrio, like y'all say. And y'all took everything from me for all these years. And Mayor, maybe you can understand me. You have a business, I have a business. I cannot open because of the parking. They put that bike thing. It's time that we be fair and try to make money for the city so we can get some schools done or whatever we need. I'm coming here to tell you that I need that building open to survive. That's how I make my living. How come y'all don't say anything about those people that park on the street over there by the cable company and the boat company, that you have to go in the middle of the street to see if there's no coming cars? I don't care how and who parks where, but when it comes down to my street on Oak Street, I have to come down here and complain because nobody complains. Nobody does nothing for us. I was hoping that Harry would be here, but I guess not. And but I hope that you can understand and y'all can help me. I need to open my business to make money, Mayor, because I see that they cut the yard for y'all. Oh my God, they cut the yard downtown, but you know what? They don't cut ours. I even have to cut my neighbors for over 30 years, and then the city don't allow me the parking. That's not right. Try to be more, think of the poor people, I would say, because I really need that building open. And I hope when we go, because somebody wants to rent it, I hope you give me the permission this time because I really do need it. And I thank you very much for all your work, and I hope you understand what I came to say. And may God bless y'all.
Thank you very much for your comments. Do I have any further public comment? Then I want to make just one comment. Many of you probably saw the article in the newspaper last week about the event in Washington, D.C. And I need to say the following about Howard Taylor. His vision and his ability to develop that museum into the quality museum that it is today is remarkable. For us to take the art to Washington, D.C., and for it to stand up as strong as it did in a home and make that art look like it belonged there and had always been there, made me so proud of this city, the artistic talent, the capability, and the leadership of that museum. So I just want to say publicly, thank you, Howard Taylor, for what you've done to make this the quality of life city that we have through your vision and your efforts. Any other public comment?
Mayor, just very briefly, I know that Anthony's already been recognized, but I definitely want to thank him, the city manager, for an outstanding job that he's done while he's been here as well. And I do want to commend him. And I think Belgrade is going to get themselves a wonderful town manager. And I wish him the absolute best. I think he'll take the same attitude that he had here as far as his work ethic and He'll display it there as well, and I think he's going to do an outstanding job there as well. So, Anthony, thank you for all you've done. We appreciate you.
Very much so, Anthony. Good luck. At this point in time, I should have announced it earlier, please turn off your cell phones and put them on silent or vibrate. And with that, is there any other further comment, public comment? With none, we will move into the consent agenda. Do I have any items that council would like to pull? Lane? Okay, Lucy?
Nothing to pull.
Tom?
No, I'm good.
Tommy?
No, ma'am.
With that, may I have a motion to approve all of the consent agenda?
To approve.
Moved
Second.
and a second by Tommy. Any public comment? With no public comment, we will approve the consent agenda. Oh, did I take a vote? Let me take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, consent agenda approved. We'll move into item 7, the regular agenda, starting with item A. Consider approving a change order to ES-02-18 Bell Street Reconstruction Project contract with Reese Albert Incorporated in the amount of $87,593.92 to be expended from currently allocated contingency funds and affecting a change in the pavement marking to include appropriate surface preparation, sealing, and contrast stripping for concrete paving, and authorizing the city manager to execute all related documents. Lance, you're making the presentation today?
Yes, ma'am. Morning, Mayor, Council, Lance Overstreet Engineering Services. And what we have today for you guys is a change order that we're asking to be approved. This change order is roughly $88,000, and what it is adding into this project is a line item that was not originally bid and was not originally approved by council. And so according to the purchasing guidelines, if this isn't something that you guys previously approved and it exceeds the $50,000 threshold, we do have to bring that to you guys for approval. I will let you know that this change order is going to be within the budget that was already approved, so it's going to be out of the contingency funds, so we're not asking for additional funds. It's going to be completely within the project scope. But because of the dollar threshold and because it was not an item that was originally approved, we do have to come to you guys to ask that. And so what is going to be putting in is contrast striping and then the surface preparation on the concrete surface of the street for that contrast striping. And so you may ask yourself, what is contrast striping? And in the presentation, we actually have that. Contrast striping is where you actually put down a black layer and then put yellow striping on top of that. And what it does is it really adds that contrast for you to be able to see the difference. Sometimes you'll see that next to the white stripe. Sometimes you'll see it under the white stripe. Sometimes you'll see the skip of a white, black, white, black. And what we're proposing is what you see here, which is that black, and then the white or yellow would be underneath that to add that difference in the reflection. And the reason we're asking for that is because of the fact that we're putting a concrete street in. You can see here on the image that I've just pulled up, if it's a nice black asphalt pavement, there's a lot of contrast there. You can see those white stripes. But in the other image, you can actually see a concrete street, and you can see that the white almost just blends right into it because of the fact that the concrete is that lighter color. It is a more of a gray or a washed out color. And so we have recently run into a TxDOT thing where on the frontage road out there and towards HEB and towards Walmart, when they put that concrete street in, they ran into a similar problem. They striped that, people couldn't see it. The people were having difficulty finding out which lane they were supposed to be in. And so what they chose to do there, since they had not put the contrast striping in first, was they actually went through, and if you go out there, you'll see they ground with a grinder, a mechanical means. They took that nice new concrete street and ground the entire length of that on both sides to give that kind of contrast. And so you may ask yourself, why we're recommending this? Well, largely because of the concrete street. When we originally bid Bell Street, we had the option of either the roller compacted, and it came back as a traditional. The roller compacted is a lot more coarse. It's a little darker material. It doesn't necessarily need the contrast striping. What has been proposed with the traditional, though, we are highly recommending the contrast striping for a safety aspect. So that way those lanes are very clear to people, those marks are very clear. And then also, too, because this contractor and TxDOT has recently had to make some changes after the fact as well to try to make their striping a little bit more contrast. So we want to do that in the front side not necessarily on the backside once it's installed. And so the other thing that we wanted to pay to your attention is this was not something that was missed by the engineering firm. This was, in all the specs, is a preference. It's not something that's required. It's just something that we really feel that is going to be highly recommended for the safety component. It also, too, it varies between regions because of the material and the source that you're using. As you guys are very well aware of, a lot of our source material here is a lighter colored sandstone type conglomerate. It doesn't have a lot of darker grays and slates in it, and so that even also adds to that lighter pigment of that concrete that kind of helps to drive the need for this. And so it wasn't something that was needed or was it wasn't something that was missed necessarily. It's just something that engineering and the contractor, we really believe that we need to add into this contract. And so with that, we're just asking that you guys approve that. But do you guys have any questions?
Just to repeat, this is still within the initial dollars.
Yes, ma'am. It is
approved for the project.
That is correct. It's going to be within the contingency funds that have already been approved by council. We're not asking for more money.
Okay. Do I have further questions from council? Lucy?
I just have a short question. The stripping, is it going to go completely through the whole 3 phases of the project?
Yes, it actually is going to be all 3 phases will be a part of it, and that contrast striping will be a part of all of them, yes.
Tommy, any questions?
Good.
We're good. Okay, so with that, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as presented.
Okay.
Okay, with a motion by Tommy, a second by Lucy. Public comment, please. With no public comment, we will, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, mash and post. Speak correctly, too much caffeine. That would be a 5-0 vote. We'll move into item B. Consider awarding ES-05-19 high-density mineral bond surface treatment to Andale Construction Incorporated in the amount of $218,083.48 and authorizing the city manager to execute any related documents. Patrick, you're on.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Council, City Manager. We're here before you this morning to seek your approval of ES-05-19, which also gives your approval of a pilot project for high-density mineral bond product, also known as HA5. What this is it's a street preservation product that we hope to incorporate into our street preservation program that we're developing. So what high-density mineral bond is it's an alternative to seal coat. And while we say it's an alternative to seal coat, it is not a rehabilitation product per se. What it is it is a street preservation product. So what this will do is it will keep our streets that we've invested money in and that developers have invested money in from getting to the state that we need to perform a higher level of rehabilitation on. I'm not saying that we won't, but what that will do will extend that amount of time before that application is needed. What it does is it combines the asphalt with high concentrations of aggregates, polymers, and other components that resist deterioration. What it does is it blocks the UV light from oxidizing those products, the products in the asphalt and in excuse me, what am I trying to say here? It protects from oxidization of the hot mix. That's the word I was looking for.
I'm
hot
having a
mix.
tough time with my words today too, so join the group.
I
was saying mash something up. What you're trying to say a while ago.
I don't even know.
So the HA5 is a product that it has to be applied on a higher PCI street. So it has a very select number of candidates that it can be applied to. It will not be applicable to all of our streets. And what it does, like I said, is it's meant to seal and preserve the streets from oxidization, from deterioration. We have a 2-year warranty with a reapplication expected every 8 years, which is similar to what Council's goal for the seal coat cycle is. Our project goal for this pilot project this test project, is to evaluate HA5 as a preservation method and as an option to extend the life of our roadways and to incorporate that into our street preservation program. Some of the pros of high density mineral bond or HA5 is we have no loose aggregates. One of the biggest feedback that we get on the seal coat is they do not like the shelling of the aggregate that's placed on that roadway. So you do not have this in HA5. HA5 incorporates those small aggregates into the actual application, so there's not a loose aggregate that's applied on top of the asphalt product. It's also more visually aesthetically pleasing. It retains its color for a longer duration of time, so it stays blacker longer than what you see in the seal coat or even in a hot mix application. Has better waterproofing, better preservation, and a longer warranty. So we get a 1-year warranty with the seal coat, and this is proposed at a 2-year warranty. And based on the application and the condition of the roadway when it goes down, we have the option to make an amendment to that warranty period to potentially extend it out to 5 years. Some of the cons of high density mineral bond, the biggest being a 24-hour cure time. And what that means is you cannot access the road. You cannot drive on the road for 24 hours after we apply it. Now, the vendor has been in this business for a long time. They have SOPs in place to accommodate this. They're very well aware of the impact that it has on the citizens in the neighborhoods that they put this in. They've applied it in Midland and Amarillo and Waco and several places, so they're well aware of how to accommodate this. They have a very good, the feedback that we've gotten from other agencies, they have a very good communication system. They use text messaging, they use flyers, they go door to door 72 hours prior to and actually speak with the citizens, explain to them what's going on and answer any questions. The citizens will have the project manager's direct phone number. So if they have questions, if they have comments, if they have concerns, they can call him directly and speak with him and get those resolved. It is at a cost premium. HA5 is at $3.04 a square yard as it was bid. Our seal coat process is at $2.71. But what we expect is to get a longer life on our roadways for that cost premium. So instead of getting an 8-year cycle, we're hoping to extend that out if we can put it on the applicable roadways to a little beyond that and extend that and pay for that additional upfront premium. And like I said earlier, it is on fewer applicable roadways. It needs to be on a roadway that is a standard 70 PCI score or better. So it's not going to work on roadways that are highly deteriorated or have a lot of cracks already and potholing. Those are going to be applications for seal coat. This application is going to be on newer roadways. So you come into the newer developments, you come into the Bell Streets or those rehab streets that we've recently rehabbed, like MLK, College Hills, and you reapply this in order to seal in those asphalt products in there and keep that road from deteriorating, from oxidizing quickly. Just a real quick visual comparison of chip seal compared to HA5. On the left, you have a chip seal roadway, which we're all familiar with. It's a very coarse application. You have the shelling of the aggregate. It's inevitable. It's the nature of that application. On the right, you have HA5. Again, that aggregate is incorporated into the actual liquid product that's sprayed down, and so you don't have that shelling opportunity that you have with seal coat.
Would you explain what shelling is? You keep saying shelling, but
Shelling.
for the citizens out there that are watching, they're probably asking, what is shelling?
Yes, sir. Shelling is when that aggregate releases from the asphalt that's placed down. So as you drive on it, it's that loose rock that's on the side that we always hear about and get the request to sweep up. HA5 does not have that same shelling effect or that loose aggregate effect. Again, just a side-by-side comparison, I mentioned that it retains its color retention, and that's one of the biggest selling points in some of the neighborhoods. You see this, their application is primarily in residential neighborhoods, and it's one of the biggest touts that those neighborhoods have is it does retain that visual aestheticness of it. It retains its color. So you see there on the right-hand side, that's an 8-year-old application of the product, and it still looks visually pleasing and has that dark nature that everyone expects the street to have. The project location for this pilot project is going to be in the Prestonwood Twin Oaks addition, off of Southland Boulevard across from Bonham Elementary. It's a somewhat isolated neighborhood, but these streets are about 4 years old, 5 years old, and they are great candidates for this application. We actually met with the vendor and looked at several different areas of town, and he denied 2 other areas before we came to this one, saying that he would not apply his product on that street because it was too far gone. It was streets that we had initially thought would be great candidates for this. So they're very, very self-aware and very, very conscious about what kind of street they're putting this on in order to maximize it, because they don't want to fail, nor do we. So the vendor does a very thorough evaluation of the streets that they're going to apply it on, so that we make sure that the money that we are investing into this is being used appropriately. So we talked about accessing the homes and allowing access. This Prestonwood addition was also selected because of the accessibility to the residents. They all have alleyways, and you see here, this is the proposed phasing plan for their application. So they will do similar colors on the same day. So they'll do all the greens at one time, all the yellows at one time, and all the blues at one time. So what you see there is, based on where those start and stop points are, there will always be accessibility for the homeowners to their homes, is what they're proposing. 95% of the residents won't see any interruption. They may have to take an alternative route, but they still will be able to access their homes. And that's one of the reasons we chose this neighborhood initially as well. It was because of that accessibility, and that to give the citizens and council and even staff a feel for the product and the application and how the whole program works together, and ensure that the vendor does what he says he's going to do. So again, our recommendation is to award RFB ESO 519 in the amount of $218,000 for the treatment of about 56,000 square yards. There is some additional contingency money in that, along with mobilization involved in that. So that's what's up before you today for approval, and I'm gladly answer any questions you may have.
When you talked about other people have used it, have you talked to the city of Midland?
We actually visited the city of Midland a couple of years ago whenever they were applying it. Talked to their inspectors, talked to the city officials, and they were all very positive in their words toward it. In fact, Midland is placing their 4th application this year in it. The city of Waco just extended their project this year by 425,000 square yards, in addition to what they had already contracted. So it's a product that we're seeing the municipalities that are using it continuing to use it on a recurring basis. Like I said, we did interview staff from Midland and talk to them, and they had good reviews of not only the product but also of the company that applied it.
Well, it's good that we're doing an area that has alleyways, so people don't have driveways in their front of their house. The question mark is, does this neighborhood have mail delivery? And how do we work with the mail delivery situation?
So that is a portion of the 72-hour notification that the customers give. They're not only notifying the customers, but they're also working in the weeks prior with the trash service, with the delivery service, with all those utility services that have to access those residences on a weekly or daily basis. So they're well aware, and they work with them to accommodate that. They do provide shuttles back and forth to homes. They provide secured parking areas for vehicles that are monitored and with security. So they're, like I said, they've been doing this long enough that they understand that the citizens' perspective and the citizens' comfort with their project is most important to them. So
you mentioned Bonham School, so will this be done prior to school going back into session so that there's no issue with school buses or pickup?
So we talked to the vendor, and like I said, they're working on their phasing right now. They're going to come down in a couple of weeks and reevaluate the area and let us know what type of preparatory work we need to do. And then at that point, we'll determine when they're going to be here to apply. The beauty of this for our project, and that's size of our project is it's one crew, 5 days. So it's very easy for, in talking to the vendor, it's very easy for them to pull a crew off and send down here and get it done very quickly. So we'll take those into considerations as we're looking at those timing schedules and hopefully lessen the impact as much as we can.
I hope it works, because I know every time we do this seal coat process, the phone rings up.
Right.
The emails are continual, and so I know the public would love to have some alternative application, and I think we could reduce tremendous amount of complaints with this project. So I'm excited to see it work. Do I have other questions from council? Tommy?
Quality control, Patrick, you mentioned, you know, we have a 2-year warranty. Who, in the time frame, is it simply up to us, the city, to provide the quality control? Do they have someone that they send? How's that accountability?
So the beauty of our job is we have a lot of inspectors out there, almost 100,000, that let us know anytime that we have an issue.
Correct.
So yes, Tom.
You have a lot of quality control.
We have a lot of quality control inspectors.
I didn't know I was stepping into it when I asked that question.
But yes, what we'll be looking for is delamination. Any parts that we see oxidizing or that have delaminated due to a lack of prep will come in. The company will come in, will properly treat it and reapply in that situation.
Patrick, is there a better temperature or prime or optimum temperature to apply this? So we're looking at, you know, getting behind the window. We're looking at September, October, and I know those temps start to drop in the night. So.
Yes, sir. So their season is typically April to that September, October time frame. As long as we're still in the 70s, we're perfectly fine for that application.
Do I have questions further from council? Billy?
Thank you, Mayor. I know I'm Janetta come lately this morning, and this question may have already been asked or addressed, but I just wonder, Patrick, if we did any kind of assessment from cities that have used this product before and what their experience was.
It has been asked, but I'll let him explain it again because it's important to know.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. As I alluded to earlier, we've been actually looking at this product for the past 3 years and evaluating it, and we spent time in Midland watching it be applied, talking with their officials, and so we've been going back and forth and watching them grow throughout the state for the past 3 years. And you know, they started in primarily focusing in the Colorado area. They just opened up a satellite location in Pleasanton, just south of San Antonio. So they saw the boom and the expansion of their business in Texas to open up a satellite location here. So we have been watching it, and we have been talking with those city officials that have applied it. Like I said, the city of Midland is in their 4th application of it, recurring application of this product.
How does the price compare? I'm sure he said that before.
It's okay, but we'll repeat it.
It is.
Thank you so much for your indulgence.
The price per square yard for HA5 is bid at $3.04 a square yard, where comparatively Seal Coat is at $2.71. Now, what we've seen in the Seal Coat world is a gradual uptick in that pricing. So over the course of the 3 years, we've gone from about $250 up to the $271 mark. And talking with Midland and talking with, they have tried to stabilize their pricing structure. Midland hasn't paid an additional premium over the course of that 4 years. I'm not saying it won't happen, but the vendor said that opening their satellite location here has allowed them to keep those costs down and be a little more stable in that pricing structure.
Billy, I think the other comment he made was that we anticipate, can't guarantee, but anticipate longer life with this than also Seal Coat. So if you take a look at the additional length of time that we hope this product will give us on our streets, the cost would be
great
washed
because
away, yeah.
I was hoping I would get here before this, discussion took place, because that's one of the things that I've gotten a lot of calls on from residents in District 6 is, the seal coating just, it just doesn't work. And, you have crumbling streets. And so I get lots of complaints on that. So I'm excited and hope this will work better.
Great. Lane, did you have a question?
Yes, so our 8-year cycle that we have for seal coats, what would be the length of cycle that we would apply this?
So again, the expected reapplication is 8 years, or the recommended reapplication is 8 years. So it follows suits with that. But in speaking with the vendor over the course of this evaluation time that we've had, this 3 years, so what they're finding is if they will apply the product on a newly rehabbed street, so your College Hills, your MLK, some of those, in like year 2, what you're doing is
Let's make sure we know that College Hills hasn't been done yet.
the
Yeah.
other portion to Valley View.
Okay, just making sure
the
we're all on
portion
the
of
same-
College Hills
same
that we
street
just
conversation
mill and
here.
overlaid, yes, ma'am. But those streets that have recently been rehabbed, if we can apply this product as a preservation method, we can extend that out. What the vendor said that they're seeing is if we can trap those oils in there before they oxidize, they can actually extend that beyond that 8-year time period by a considerable amount. So
By the
again, we're
price
looking
that
at
we
those
would-
options.
By the price that we would be paying, it's about 33 cents difference. We're paying a little bit more for it, but it's better quality, same time length.
And we're hoping it has a better reception to the public and a better end product based on the feedback that we've gotten from the seal coat program.
The product that we're spraying down, is there a sheen of any type to it where
It's not a sheen.
steady?
You will not
Okay.
see a reduction in the skid resistance of the roadway.
Further questions from council? With no further questions, do I have a motion to approve item B?
Move to approve.
Lane made a motion. Do I have a second? A second by Tommy. Do I have public comment? With no public comment, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, motion passes 6-0. We will move into item C. Consider approval of the following. 1, second reading of an ordinance removing the lease and sale of residential and commercial lots at Lake Nasworthy and the lease of city-owned property through short-term recreational leases from the Code of Ordinances and requiring the policy to be adopted by City Council through resolution. And 2, approval of a resolution adopting the Policy and Procedures Manual for Lake Nasworthy lease and sale of residential and commercial lot leases and short-term recreational lease of city-owned property. Cindy?
I want to
Or
start with the
Teresa?
first part of that.
Okay.
This is the second reading of the ordinance that actually removes this policy that deals with how you guys tell us we should lease and sell properties at Lake Nasworthy on the Concho River from the Code of Ordinances into its own policy. The ordinance change itself doesn't change anything, but I'm going to let Cindy describe the policy and what changes we are proposing to make to that. It will require 2 different actions today, one to approve the ordinance change and the second to approve the policy. The ordinance will not become effective until the policy is adopted, so I don't want you to feel like a lot of pressure about that kind of relationship.
Okay. Cindy?
Good morning, Council, Mayor,
Morning.
and Mr. Valenzuela. The item before you today is to move from the ordinances that are found in Article 9.03 and Appendix 6.001 from the Code of Ordinances to the policy. The sections in the Code of Ordinances details the sales for the procedure of the Lake Nasworthy residential and commercial lots to its current tenants. It also provides for calculating the yearly lease fees of the Lake Nasworthy residential and commercial lots. Additionally, it provides direction for calculating yearly lease fees for city-owned property adjacent to or near the Concho River. Excuse me. These leases are short-term leases. They are commonly known as the recreational leases. The policy, we are proposing no changes to the way that the sale price is established when the residential lot owner or tenant decides to purchase their lot. That procedure includes an MAI certified appraiser valuing the property. The sale price is at appraised value. There is no negotiations. It also restricts the tenants on a Lake Nasworthy residential lot to 4 individuals or less. It also states that no entity can hold the leasehold unless it's by operation of law. We also.
You want to talk through that restricting leases of residential lots to individuals? I'm a little confused.
The tenants for a residential Lake Nasworthy lot can only be individuals. We can't lease to a corporation or to an entity unless it is through operation of law. That would be through the foreclosure process. If a lender becomes the tenant, then that is acceptable.
Okay.
The next item that is not being proposed for a change is the transfer of commercial or organizational leases. We will require that, or request that council approve, retain that authority to approve any transfer of a commercial or organizational lease. In May 2016, City Council approved a fee schedule for the transfer and granting fees for new leases on residential and commercial and organizational leases. We are not recommending a change to that fee schedule. Council did review it in 2016. We believe that that fee schedule remains current. Additionally, May 2016, Council approved the new lease fee schedule for recreational and grazing leases. They did adjust this fee. We believe, again, that these lease fees are current and should remain as proposed and adopted in 2016.
Do you want to review those with us?
Yes, ma'am. For a resident or a commercial lease, or I'm sorry, for a recreational lease fee, it is $14 an acre, and the tenant is charged a flat $250 recreational fee. And in addition, any tenant that abuts the waters of the river or the Lake Nasworthy would pay an additional 50 cents per square foot. Again, council did increase those fees in 2016, and we believe that those fees are current. Now to the proposed changes to the ordinance and to the policy. March 4th, 1997, City Council adopted an ordinance which increased the yearly lease fees for leases that went to market value on January 1st, 2017. They adopted the policy again 22 years ago, which said that tenants should prepare to pay 8% of the appraised value when their lease fee went to market value. 2014, we had a number of tenants who were concerned that the financial hardship would be a burden on them. They did visit with City Council. City Council reduced that multiplication factor from 8% to 1.5%. We have routinely told the tenants since 2014 that they should expect an increase, that 1.5% was not true market value. We've had several tenants who have purchased, again, anticipating that yearly lease fee would increase. 2019, city staff employed Stribling and Probant. They are MIA certified appraisers here within the city. They're very familiar with Lake Nasworthy residential lots. They provided us with an expert opinion on what the multiplication factor should be for the city to recover or to charge the true market value for a residential lease lot at Lake Nasworthy. Their recommendation was not the 8%, which is on all of the leases. Their recommendation is that it be 6%. Again, that's 2% less than the ordinance approved in 1997. So the staff's proposed changes for the multiplication factor, this will be a gradual increase to allow the tenants an opportunity to seek purchase of the property or to move forward with budget that would allow them to budget the increase in fees. For 2019, we request that multiplication factor will remain at 1.5%. In 2020, we request propose that the multiplication factor increase to 2%. For 21 and 22, the proposed increase will be to 4%. And in 2023, we request that the multiplication be 6% of that appraised value. We don't anticipate any additional increase in the multiplication factor at this time. We did notify all the tenants approximately 10 days ago that we would be having this meeting today, and that these proposed changes would be requested for council's review. Additional proposed changes is the residential lease terms not to exceed 10 years. They're currently at 40 years. We would propose that be reduced to 10 years. We also would request that City Council consider under what terms it will sell the commercial and organizational leased lots. We also propose that the city manager be authorized to execute all Lake Nasworthy residential lots with a 10-year maximum term, and also any recreational leases with a term not to exceed 5 years. Additionally, we request that the city manager be authorized to negotiate and execute documents necessary for the sale of the surface estate of Lake Nasworthy residential lots to the current residential leaseholder. That lease sale, again, the sale would be the appraised value. There are no negotiations on the purchase price. We do have a small number of tenants who entered into their leases in 2016. Those tenants were given a set lease fee of 1.5% of the market value on their leases. We propose that the policy will include an amendment, if you will, or guidelines that the tenants who receive that 1.5%, that they be allowed to continue to enjoy the 1.5% until such time as they assign that lease. Once that lease is assigned, then it will move into the market value. We've consulted with Teresa, city attorney, and she has acknowledged that the leases do provide for that opportunity through the transfer of lease to increase it to the market value.
Mayor?
Yes, Billy?
Cindy, just a question. Do we know about how many residents would fall into that category?
We have approximately 16 tenants who obtained the lease. Their lease expired in 2016, and so they were given the opportunity to enter into a new lease. That new lease did state that it would be based on 1.5% and not the true market value. Again, at that time, the leases did state 8%, but they were in the new lease authorized to 1.5%.
Is this 2014 or 2016? Because the slide showed 2014.
2014 was when the in 2016 is when they entered into the lease, but it was under the 2014 ordinance.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for that
So
clarification.
it was in 2016. We have met with the new council, which is the current seated council, and they directed us to stop approving any new leases until such time as council could review the ordinance and make the leases the true market value, which the citizens of San Angelo also understood. We also have a number of tenants. When the 2014 ordinance was adopted, reducing it, we had a number of tenants who were upset with staff and council because they purchased their lot with the understanding that these yearly lease fees would increase to 8%. So when the temporary reduction went into effect in 2014, a lot of them said, "Why did I have to purchase? If I'd known you were going to reduce it, then they would have chosen not to purchase and to continue to lease."
Billy, did you have further questions? Sorry.
And what's the length of those leases that were entered into in 2016?
At the time, the ordinance provided that they could enter into a 40-year lease. So those leases are for 40 years. But again, once the lease is transferred and the improvements are sold, then it will revert to the new lease fees.
Okay, but if it's not sold or, not assigned, they would enjoy the 1.5% for 38 more years or 37 more years.
Possibly, yes, ma'am.
You said about 16?
16, yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Of 16 of the 170 tenants that we have.
The one issue, when we went back and we talked about 40 years, as Billy y'all just discussed, and it's now down to 10 years, will people have the ability to buy a property if the lease amount is for 10 years only?
If
Because
it
it's
may
one
be-
thing if you're getting financing and you have 40 years. It's another if you are requesting financing and you only get 10 years. Will that have a negative impact on the ability for someone to buy or sell?
I suspect that it will, only because right now, on a 30-year lease, tenants who try to finance the purchase of the improvements and the leasehold, their lenders requesting a 35-year lease or a 40-year lease. So it's likely that would have a negative impact on someone acquiring financing.
Tommy, do you have questions?
I have a couple, yes. Thanks, Mayor. I guess this might be for Teresa. Teresa, why do we have to charge anything at all for a lease?
Well, this is city-owned property, and so we have an obligation, you guys do, and we as city staff have an obligation to ensure that city property is held for the benefit of the public and not for individuals. There's a constitutional provision that requires us to evaluate that. For a long time, we were unsure exactly where these leases should fall as far as this increase is concerned, but now that we have this appraisal, we are sure where that should happen. And so a failure to adjust it in some manner, it would constitute, in essence, a constitutional violation of our duty to protect the assets of the public.
In consequence of not protecting that constitutional provision would be potentially...
Well, I think there could be a lot of consequences to that. Some relating to these leases is the leases could be declared to be void. I think that there's probably some actions that the citizens could take against the city whenever we're misusing our property. You all could have consequences related to your positions on council. So there's, it's one of those tenets of government that we're here for the good of the public and not the individual, that just needs to be followed.
Okay, right, thanks.
I think the other thing that's happened over time, though, is that there has been this inequality that's developed amongst these leases, and they're very aware of that. I mean, neighbors know what their neighbor is paying for these lease fees, and there's some very big differences just right next to each other as to what that is.
Cindy, just for clarification for really the citizens that have the leases, walk us through if this is to be adopted, there will be no change this year. It will remain at 1.5%.
Yes, sir, that's the proposal
That's the
to
proposal.
council. That's the
Okay.
proposal to council.
So if they're under the 2016, which Billy was just asking about, those are at 1.5% for the duration of that lease, assuming no changes whatsoever.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. So then the remainder of the leases, roughly 150 some odd leases then, walk us through the increase schedule. If they've still got 13 years remaining on their lease and they don't make any changes to that, what would their increase schedule be, or would there be an increase?
There are a number of leases, right? Again, the yearly lease fees based on market value started in January 1st, 2017. Not all leases go to market value January 2017. We have some leases that don't go to market value till 2040. So the tenants, the 86 tenants whose lease is currently based on a market value where it's an unknown number, it's through the appraisal process and then the multiplication factor. So the tenants who are under a market value lease, their lease will increase. I will tell you that we currently work with a number of tenants. They do pay installments. They start paying 3 months before their lease is due. We are sympathetic to the tenants. We understand that a lot of them will endure financial hardships by this increase. But again, we're just trying to follow what the council in 1997's direction was, that it goes to market value. The 2014 decision, we believe, was a temporary fix, that the intentions were to maybe gradually increase it again. We tell anyone who is interested in purchasing a Lake Nasworthy improvements or assuming a lease, we have told them that right now your lease fee is based at 1.5%. We always give them the example, if the lease is if the lot is valued at $100,000, that their current lease fee is $1,500, but based on their lease, they should be paying $8,000. So we feel like we have educated the tenants and the real estate agents. You know, we have really tried to notify anyone that would have a negative effect of this increase.
My question just vanished from my brain.
Tom, do you want to ask a question? Maybe Tommy's will come back. We're all having a struggle today, aren't we?
Well, no, so some of these people that have locked into this lease at 1.5, but then again, the average time period that these houses actually change ownership is probably well under the 40 years. It's probably, we're looking at a time frame from the next 3, 10, 12. So when that does happen, they will go back into a fair market valuation at the 6%, correct?
They will, yes, sir. And if that lease transfers in 2020, it's going to be based on this proposed fee schedule of 4%. 2% in 2020, and then 4% for 2021 and 22. I would also like to remind council that anyone whose lease comes due after 2023, they will automatically fall into that 6%. They're not going to have the gradual increase that the tenants who are at market value now. We did not amend any of the leases from the 8%. It was just a council ordinance. So we would request that authorization to amend those leases now and provide them with the fee schedule.
While it appears to be a very long exemption advantage, it's not when you really look at how these are actually going to change hands.
Correct. Yes, sir.
I did remember,
Tommy?
Brenda. You mailed out approximately, if I've heard you correctly, 170 notifications.
We did mail out 170 notifications.
How many of those folks have you heard from with either questions, with angst about the process? How many of those have you heard from?
We had telephone calls from approximately 5 of the tenants, and most of them, we didn't have any angry tenants. They just said, am I reading this am I reading what I think it says? And we would go through the process and explain to them what is being proposed to council today. Again, we encourage them to contact the council or to be here today if they had additional questions to council. From that mailing, we have received 5 tenants who have requested an appraisal to purchase their property. So the tenants were made aware of today's meeting and the proposed changes. They were detailed what we were going to propose.
Thank you.
And also the 10-year lease renewal.
Daniel?
Yeah. If I may reiterate, and Tracy will correct me if I'm wrong. So really, now that we haven't established the market rate, which is the 6%, at this point, we as a city have an obligation to get to that point, to develop a plan, which is what we're doing right now, to get us to that 6%. Is that correct, Teresa?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're pretty clear on that. So when we're looking at this, it is a consideration, not just a consideration, but it is a have to, that we really have to get to that point to the 6%. So.
All right, with that, do I have further questions from council? Do we need to take action on item 1 first? Or
Yes,
item, yeah, 1 first? Okay. So do I have a motion to accept C1?
So moved.
A second? And a second by Lane. Do we have public comment?
Mayor, Council, Steve Hampton. I have a couple of questions. This is being done for what purpose? Is it to expedite, to make it easier for you to process these things, get them off the record? Is that what I remember hearing?
The idea behind doing this is to protect the city's assets and get, go ahead,
City
Teresa.
Attorney just explained that,
explained
Mr.
it.
Hampson, what she just
So
said
are you
a minute
referring
ago.
to why are we removing it from the code and putting
Why
it
are
in a policy?
why has this come up at all?
We are doing a systematic review of the Code of Ordinances, and San Angelo over time has put a lot of things that most cities include as just policies into the code. It's very expensive to keep them codified in this manner, and it is cumbersome to change things. So it's just an efficiency in the code. But the language of the policy is except for the changes that Cindy indicated is going to be the same.
Here on out, we will not be hearing when people are leasing stuff individually.
We won't be hearing anything that is currently on the consent agenda because it's just, we have no opportunity to change anything. So yes,
Right, it
it'll make
costs us
that more
money
effective and efficient.
print out
We
the-
do often have transfers of property that are waiting for a council meeting to happen so that it can be fulfilled because it has required council approval. But as long as these transfers are being done in accordance with the policy, we will not be bringing them to council.
Thank you. Is this, these changes in any way, are they affecting the Lake Nasworthy fund,
The trust fund, no.
trust fund?
%20 of the lease fees that are collected is transferred over to the trust fund. Based on 2019 fees, lease fees of trust fund will gain approximately $36,000 in 2023 if we have no changes in the current tenants. If we continue to maintain the 169 tenants, that trust fund contribution will be $112,600. So it does show that there is a drastic increase in the revenue that would be deposited into the trust fund with the ultimate 6% of the appraised value.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, that's from lease fees, is that correct?
Yes. That's what
And Mr. Hampton, with the change in the terms, we expect we would see a greater number of people electing to purchase the property. And so that increase would probably have a short life until those lease revenues went away, which would be replaced by monies going into the fund associated with sales. Does that make sense?
Yes. Now, do these people, when they're leasees, do they pay property taxes?
According to the appraisal district, the tenants do pay property taxes. Their property taxes are estimated on the land at half of the actual value that they believe to be the value of the lot. So the tenants do pay, but it's, according to the appraisal district, it's half of the actual value of the lot. Once the tenant becomes the owner of the lot, then they will be taxed based on 100% of the lot.
And when they're leasee, we have a hard time evaluating the property's true value because we're not allowed to.
Actually, the appraisal district, their valuations are very close to what the appraised value comes in when we order an appraisal from a certified, the MAI certified appraiser. Their values are very close to half of what the appraiser values the land at. So the collection on the taxes.
Thank you. Do I have further public comment? No further public comment. We'll take a vote. All in favor of approving C1, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With none opposed, motion passes 6-0. We will now go into item C2, approval of a resolution adopting the policy and procedures manual for Lake Nasworthy lease and sale of residential and commercial lot leases and short-term recreational lease of city-owned property. Cindy or Teresa, who's doing this one? Confusion. Who's doing it?
I think that's the one that I just presented,
She just presented
Mayor.
the policy.
It had
We
to
just
do
need
with
to
the
vote on
policy.
So we've done both, 1 and
Yes,
2.
ma'am. Yes,
I thought
ma'am.
you said we had to do them
You
separately.
need separate votes.
Okay,
but
so we just have
we
to
did one
take the vote.
presentation, right.
With that, let's take a vote. All in favor of doing C2?
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve C2.
Second.
All right, with that, public comment. None. We'll take a vote. All in favor of approving C2, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, motion passes 6-0. We'll move on to item D, public hearing and first reading of an ordinance amending Appendix A fee schedule in the Code of Ordinances and requiring a fee schedule to be adopted by resolution of council. Teresa?
Again, this is an ordinance that's cleaning up our code of ordinances by removing what could otherwise be a policy from the code. It is the schedule of fees that's currently Appendix A. Now, we're not going to be removing the entire Appendix A. We're still going to be leaving the solid waste fees there because they're contracted. The contract indicates that's where they're going to be found in the water rates and stormwater rates, both of which have some statutory provisions that require those to be adopted by an ordinance. All the other fees that you've already adopted and a couple that you're going to be addressing today are going to be moved into a policy that we're going to discuss next week. Our next meeting, if you approve this. At that meeting, we're actually going to bring you two things. The first thing is going to be a schedule of fees and charges, which is going to be the fees and charges you've already adopted. And the second thing is the budget policy, which is the document that addresses how those things are to be adjusted. So during the fee discussion this year, the direction was that we, over a course of 3 years, would increase those fees to 100%. We'll put language into the policy that addresses that issue.
Okay. Do I have questions for Teresa from council? I see none, so do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Tommy, and a second by Lane. Public comment? With none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, motion passes 6-0. We will now move to item E, which is the first reading and public hearing of an ordinance amending Appendix A fee schedule, Article A 8.000, utility-related fees, AA002, A1, the rate schedule by amending the untreated water rates. And Allison, you're on.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, City Manager. Mayor, you had requested several meetings back that we bring back the raw water or untreated water rates.
Yes, ma'am.
And so this is the presentation and our analysis of those raw water rates and our proposal to change them. So what we're changing is currently the raw water or untreated water is billed at the same rates as the landscape rates. And this is what those look like. So they are based on a winter and summer schedule, and you'll see that they are tiered in 2 tiers, 0 to 89,000 rate, and then the over 89,000 gallons in one given month is billed at a higher rate. We are proposing that these rates be changed to the winter low rate, strictly for untreated water. And this would affect those customers that use Lake Nasworthy water for irrigation, and also those on the Hickory pipeline that have taps along the transmission main. We are proposing this change also to be in line with the winter low tier rate in 2020, and so that it experiences the same rate change that was established by the rate plan. For the usage, we've monitored the past 3 years, or the average for the past 3 years. About 70% of that monthly consumption falls within the 0 to 89,000 gallon usage. We have about 30% of our usage going over that 89,000 being billed at that higher rate. But even with the bulk of this consumption being in that lower tier, if we adjust those rates to the low winter rate, we would still meet our proposed rate targets, or the total budget that was projected with the rate plan in 2015, even by adjusting this rate. So we are still meeting rate plan goals by adjusting this rate to the flat rate again.
Yes, Billy.
Allison, would you go back to that first slide you put up?
The one previous to this, or this one?
No, this one.
Okay.
So are you still going to, even though you're saying adjust the rate to this lowest rate, what about over 89,000 gallons?
So all untreated or raw water rate would be billed at one rate, similar to our non-residential rate.
There would be no differentiation?
There would be no tier.
Oh,
It would all, even if they used 100,000 gallons, they'd be billed at the $6.23 per 1,000 gallons.
Thank you.
That ultimately, we are recommending this change. The second reading would occur in July, and we would make this implementation effective August 1st of this year. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you for doing the time and effort to come up with the statistics that allows us to reduce those rates, and I am I'm going to ask if council has any further questions or comments. Billy?
What's the rate for treated water, Alice?
Treated landscape water, treated residential water. So they are the same rate. So the treated landscape rate, say a commercial customer inside the city limits using treated water for irrigation is billed at these rates in this
Same
table.
rates?
Yes, ma'am. And then the raw water rates were based on the same billing.
So will there be tiers within the city?
We are not changing.
Like you have now, or?
We are not proposing any changes to landscape on the potable system. So this change is strictly affecting raw water or untreated water, which is specifically Lake Nasworthy or Hickory Pipeline customers.
Thank you.
Any other questions with that? May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, Lucy seconds it, and I'm going to ask for public comment.
Steve Hampton, I have a question. Why would we want to do this? What market are we trying to increase? If we have a water, if we're concerned about water, why are we trying to sell it for less?
Allison, you want to talk, and then I'll talk.
I think that even at $6.23, 1,000 gallons for raw water is still provides that value of water to, it does incentivize customers to use it wisely. To put this amount in perspective, we sell about 20 million gallons of untreated water with those two locations that I talked about. Overall, this is not even a percentage of our water sales across the city. But I do think that even with these rates, that it still does promote conservation, and it still keeps those customers mindful of how much water that they're using.
Further questions, comments?
On just clarification, so we can hear it again. You stated that this does not change your rate plan structure in terms of the effect on the overall plan. So by reducing this, you're not adversely affecting your water rate plan that this council didn't adopt but had been adopted previously.
That's correct. So based on the usage over these past 3 years, we would still meet the targets of the rate plan.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Allison, thank you very much.
Excuse me, I have a follow-up question. What is the amount of income that's going to be decreased because of the drop in rate on that?
What she just said, it would have no negative impact on her total budget, et cetera. So the initial rate schedule, when it was created, implicated much higher use, greater impact.
The 30% of the used water that's over the 89,000 is not going to increase, is not going to affect the budget.
It is not. With that, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, motion passes 6-0. Item F, second reading of an ordinance amending Appendix A fee schedule by deleting Article A3.011 bus fares and replacing it with Article A3.011 airport badge fees.
Good morning, Mayor,
Good morning.
Council, Mr. Valenzuela, Tina Deersky, Director of Finance. We are bringing this fee review, this feedback. We did bring it to you in the first round of fee review, but on second reading, we had some questions from our airport director. He was not able to attend the first time we brought this item, and so he is recommending that instead of increasing this fee, that we leave it at the current proposed rate that staff did propose initially. And so I know I've asked him to be here in case you have questions on as to why he recommends that rate.
Yes, Jeremy, you want to come forward and discuss that and give the other cities fee dollar amount, the reason you're requesting this?
Sure. Good morning, Council, staff. Thank you for having me. Jeremy Valgartson, representing the airport. We need to stay competitive, so we pulled some comps from some of the other airports within our state, and if we go up to the $135 and the $84 for these badges, we would be the highest cost of badges per any airport in the state.
In the state?
In the state of Texas, yes. Lots of people think that because they're airplanes, they can go to any airport they want, which is true, but they don't want to. We want to keep them. We want to keep them here in San Angelo. So I would just suggest we keep it at our current rate just to stay competitive, and it will also help on our negotiation with our airline lease.
I agree. Do I have questions from council? With no questions from council, okay, Lane, thank you for that. And a second by Lucy. Any public comment? With no public comment, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, motion passes 6-0. This will conclude our regular agenda for today's meeting. There is no closed session for today, so we will not consider items discussed in closed session, but we will go to item 9B, which is consider approving various board nominations. The Zoning Board of Adjustment, Jason Fernandez, SMD 3, to an unexpired term ending January 2020, and Danny Aguirre for the mayor, alternate 1, to an unexpired term ending January 2020.
Move to approve.
Any comments, public comments? With none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, nominations approved. We will now move into 9C, announcements and consideration of future agenda items. Do I have any? With none, may I have a motion for adjournment?
Move we adjourn.
And a second by Lane. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. The meeting is adjourned at 9:58 a.m.
That 10 o'clock window.